Welcome back to another Vox production. My name's Nahali Patel, and I'll be covering Chapter 23 of the American Pageant, specifically from sections Old Grover Takes Over to Cleveland Breeds a Backlash. Grover Cleveland won the election of 1844 against James Blaine. Cleveland was the first Democratic to take the oath of presidential office since Buchanan's term, which was 28 years prior. Cleveland held a laissez-faire attitude, which resulted in most of his supporters being either businesspeople or bankers. A new term arose around Cleveland's presidency, which was mugwumps. Mugwumps were reform-minded Republicans that switched parties during the election of 1844. They switched because they were not supportive of Republican candidate James Blaine. Cleveland's stance on who should get a position as a government employee greatly changed during his first term. At first, he believed in the merit system, which was hiring government employees based on their skills instead of political connections. However, he eventually fired almost two-thirds of his 120,000 federal employees to make room for Democrats. The Civil War resulted in many demands for military pensions. However, there were a handful of false ones. Consequently, Cleveland went through each bill to verify its legitimacy. During the Civil War, tariffs were increased drastically in order to fund the military. American industries, dominantly Republican, had profited greatly from the protection given by the tariffs and did not want it to end. As a result of these high tariffs, the Treasury was running an annual surplus amounting to $145 million. Cleveland was hesitant on using the surplus on pensions, so instead he sent an appeal for lower tariffs into Congress and succeeded. As a result, Republicans cried that lower tariffs would mean higher taxes, lower wages, and increased unemployment. The election of 1888 was between Democratic Grover Cleveland and Republican Benjamin Harrison. The tariff stood as the primary issue. Overall, the election is remembered as one of the most corrupt. For example, votes were purchased for as much as $20 each in Indiana. Cleveland won the popular vote, but Harrison won the electoral vote. Thomas B. Reed of Maine, the new Republican Speaker of the House, was a master debater. Reed was able to bend the House at his will, dominating the billion-dollar Congress. The name comes from the excessive amount of money used during Harrison's term. Congress showered pensions on Civil War veterans, increased government purchases of silver, and passed the McKinley Tariff Act of 1890, boosting rates to their highest level ever. The new tariff protected industrialists, but brought misery to farmers. This is because manufactured goods were protected while agricultural products were not. As a result of the growing discontent of the tariff, Republicans lost their majority in Congress in 1890. There was the emergence of the People's Party or Populist Party in 1892. The party was rooted in the Farmers' Alliance of frustrated farmers in the West and South. The People's Party demanded inflation through free and unlimited coinage of silver, called for a graduated income tax, and government ownership of railroads, telegraph, and telephone. Populists nominated Old Greenbacker General James B. Weaver. A series of nationwide workers' strikes in 1892 led people to believe that the Populist Party could achieve something big in the future, in terms of revolts. The Homestead strike, for example, was by steelworkers who were angry over their pay cuts. Steelworkers attacked at Andrew Carnegie's Homestead steel plant near Pittsburgh. Troops were eventually summoned, and the strike fell apart. Although the Populist Party had only 22 electoral votes, it did have over 1 million popular votes. This was impressive for a third party. So why did the Populist Party lose? The South did not support Populist Party because it recognized black people. Unfortunately, white Southerners used literacy tests and poll taxes to deny blacks the ballot. Under the Grandfather Clause, these requirements were expected for those who had voted in 1860, which was when slaves could not vote at all. Jim Crow laws furthered racial segregation in public places as a form of intimidation. Tom Watson, the leader of the Populists, eventually switched positions on interracial appeals and became a racist himself. After 1896, the Populist Party fell into the beliefs of racism and advocated for black disfranchisement. When the Populists divided and Republicans discredited, The Democratic Party held victory over the election of 1893, with Grover Cleveland as the next president. The Panic of 1893, which lasted for 4 years, was the most punishing economic downturn of the 19th century. It was caused by rapid overbuilding and speculation, labor disorders, the ongoing agricultural depression, and the cry to expand the money supply with unlimited coinage of silver. The Treasury promised to issue legal tender notes for the silver that bought it. Owners of the paper currency could then present the notes for gold, and by law, the notes had to be reissued. This cycle repeated continuously, draining the gold supply as well as dropping the gold reserve in the Treasury below the safe minimum of $100 million. As a result, Cleveland eventually decided to repeal the Sherman Silver Purchase Act of 1890, but this did not solve the problem. In 1895, Cleveland reached out to J.P. Morgan, the head of a Wall Street company. They negotiated, and the bankers agreed to lend the government $65 million in gold for a commission of $7 million. This loan temporarily helped restore confidence in the nation's finances. However, Cleveland's secretive deal with Morgan was seen as a sellout of the national government. Cleveland fell deeper into the pool of embarrassment after the Wilson-Gorman Tariff in 1894, which contained a 2% tax on incomes over $4,000. The Supreme Court ruled the income tax provision in 1895 unconstitutional. Republicans now had a majority in Congress. Cleveland is one of the few presidents that are often referred to as the forgettable presidents. Thanks for watching.